Okay, good. So we're up to Siman Chof Hey Sif Yud Gimel. Important Sif, discussing when should you take your tefillin off. Right, this is the big question. When should you take your tefillin off? So says the Mechaber in Sif Yud Gimel, Noagu ha'olam shelo lachlos tefillin ad achar kedushas uvolat Tzion. You should only take your tefillin off after the kedusha of uvolat Tzion, which is the beginning part of uvolat Tzion, v'atz kodesh, etc., etc. Says the Ramah, v'yesh mishakosov al tzad hakabbalah. From a Kabbalistic point of view, says the Ramah, shelo lachloitz ad she'omar bohem shalosh kedushas v'arba kadeshim. You should only take your tefillin off after you said shalosh kedushas v'arba kadeshim. Now we'll see what that means. The Mishnah is going to say there's a Torah sofer here, so let's hold off on that. Tahainu l'achar kadesh yosem. After kadesh yosem, v'hochinagim ha'medakdekim, and that is how the medakdekim, those who are particular, that's how they behave. Says Mishnah Berurah. Noagu ha'olam. We'll do the rest of the sif in a second. Noagu ha'olam. Sif nun hey. Sif kot nun hey. V'yesh she'ein mashin aleim yosim nachiyuv. There are those who keep their tefillin on very minimally. In other words, they don't want to keep their tefillin on too long. Why? The tzrichin guf noki. To wear tefillin, you need to have a guf noki, a clean body. V'hakol if yimashu adam, and therefore it depends on each person. Imein le guf noki, if a person does not have a guf noki, he'll pass wind, miyad, then you've got to take your tefillin off. And that's the reason why nowadays we don't wear tefillin all day, because we can't keep that level of guf noki. And in the name of the Arizal they write that he would keep his tefillin on beyond this until Al Kain, the second paragraph of Olenu. On a day where there is a bris, the minhag is we don't take off after the mila. Now, just by the way, why? Because mila is an ice and tefillin is an ice, and therefore we keep the tefillin on. What if the bris took place on Rosh Chodesh, where you take your tefillin off before Musaf? So if you look at note 65 in the Dirshu, which Mr. Hashem will get for all joiners, if the mila is on Rosh Chodesh, Kosav HaShulchan Malachim, She'Baal Bris hanoeg lilbesh tefillin b'shas hamila. Interesting. The Baal Bris is mashma, not everyone else. Yeah, not all the people in the shul. I guess it's nice if they do, but they don't have to. Yachzer v'yilbash tefillin achar musaf lekavod hamila. He should put his tefillin back on afterwards in honor of the bris mila. And also, by the way, he says Linyan Purim, Kosav lekamon she'in lachlos ad la'achar kriyas Megillah. You don't take your tefillin off on Purim morning until after the Megillah. Why not? Mishum shedarshu Chazal. The Gemara says in the Megillah, Vikar elu tefillin, and therefore la'ihutim hoisa, etc. And the vikar is elu tefillin. Therefore, the minhag is you keep your tefillin on during the Kriyas Megillah. Continues the Mishnah Berurah, ki mila hi ois, so tefillin heim ois, because tefillin and mila are both oises. Now, nun vav shalosh kedushas. You take them off after shalosh kedushas. Says the Mishnah Berurah, ta soifahu. This is there's a mistake in the text here. Uve emes sorech lomer. Be'emes it should say shalosh kadeshim va'arba kedushas. The other way around. Shalosh kadeshim and arba kedushas. Why? Ki baruch es Hashem nechshav chada. The first kedushas is baruchu. Shidavash b'kedusha. Kedusha sofa berura shnia. The kedusha of sofa berura, which is the part just before Shema in the birchas kriya Shema, before Shema. That's the second one. Kedushas uvolat Tzion is the third one. So you've got three kedushas. Yeah. Shloisha kadishim. What are the shloisha kadishim? Chatzi kaddish koidem baruchu. That's one. So you've got your tefillin on for these three kaddishes. Number one is the one before baruchu. For chatzi kaddish achar shvilas yutches, and you've got chatzi kaddish after Shemona Esra. For kaddish shalom achar uvolat Tzion, and the kaddish shalom after uvolat Tzion. So therefore, you should definitely keep it on until the kaddish after uvolat Tzion. Interestingly, the Dirshu in 68. What if you wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin? So it says the Mishnah says 68. V'amaniach tefillin Rabbeinu Tam achar shecholat tefillin derashi kosav lekaman shelo yachlos es tefillin derashi ad la'achar hazman hamavu kan v'lo miyad achar kedusha Shemona Esra. So therefore, if you wear Rabbeinu Tam, the tefillin shel Rashi you should still keep according to these rules, and therefore only take them off after the kaddish of uvolat Tzion, and then do it. You do see people wearing Rabbeinu Tam to do it during Chazor Hashatz, but that's what the Mishnah Berurah says here. Where, like we do, we say kaddish yosem after Olenu, which is much late, which is after uvolat Tzion. Toiv shlelachas adachat kaddish yosem. Okay, so what are the orders? You should not take your tefillin off until after the kedusha of after uvolat Tzion, and it's preferable to wait until after the kaddish yosem after Olenu. V'anoshim shenagim lekapel atalas tefillin malnichim b'tikkun be'es amiris kaddish lo yofa inoisin. Right? I don't know about you, but I sometimes slip to this. The people who are wrapping up their tefillin or putting away their talis when the kaddish is being said, lo yofa inoisin. That's not correct. And he says in 69, even during chazaras hashatz, you shouldn't be wrapping up your tefillin. Right? You should be listening to Chazaras Hashatz. What's very important to focus, it's very hard to do this, but to not, when you're in the middle of wrapping up your tefillin, and to stop and to be focusing on the Kaddish, it's a hard thing to do. One should try very hard to be mechaven during saying Yehi Shmei Rabbo, Kamvu Lekam B'Siman Nun Vav, B'Tur V'Shulchan Aruch. Listen to this. V'Amein Yehi Shmei Rabbo Hu Oid V'Madrega Gevur Yos Mikdusha. It's higher than Kedusha. So whatever kavana you want to have during Kedusha, Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbo is more. And it's definitely not worse than other brachos. During brachos, you shouldn't be doing any other activity. Okay, let's carry on the Mechaba. Says the Mechaba, "V'yom sheyesh bo sefer Torah." When the day of Kriyas HaTorah, noagim shelo lechaltzim ad sheyachzru sefer Torah v'yanichu beheichel. You shouldn't take them off before you take the sefer Torah and put it back in the Aron. V'hainu, says the Ramah, b'makom shemachnis na Torah la'achal v'olet tzion goyel. That's nusach sfar. We put the Sefer Torah back in Nusach Ashkenaz immediately after we lane. You shouldn't take them off like any other day. You should wait till after the Kedusha of Avolat Zion. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Let's just do the Mishnah Berurah on these points. Remez the Dover, because it's the pasuk says Vayavra Malkom Lifneihem Hainu HaSefer Torah VaHashem Bereisham, etc. But that's a reference to Tefillin. And someone, for whatever reason, you got to rush out, you're in a hurry or whatever, and you need to take your Tefillin off whilst the Sefer Torah is out. Al kol ponim yizosh lo yachloitz hashel rosh b'fnei Sefer Torah. You shouldn't take your Tefillin shel rosh off immediately in front of the Sefer Torah. It's considered disrespectful. And you should move to the side or whatever, look away of a shelyad, the leka gila, but the shelyad where it's not exposed, it's under your jacket or whatever, but tefillin sharosh, tachas talis hagodl, if it's wearing under your talis godl, then that would be okay. That shari, that would be mutter. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah, to the Mechaba. B'yom Rosh Chodesh, when do you take your tefillin off on Rosh Chodesh? This is the big question. B'yom Rosh Chodesh choltzim osom kaidem tefillas musaf. You take it off before musaf. Says the Ramav, Hu adin b'chol hamoed, and so too in chol hamoed. For dafka b'makom she'omer b'musaf kedushas keser. That's dafka when you say keser in the kedusha of musaf. Miu, however, nagim nesalkim kaidem musaf b'chol makom. The minhag is, and that's the prevalent minhag nowadays, that we take our tefillin off before Musaf on Rosh Chodesh. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Acha shechziru haSefer Torah beheichel, uv'mukemseinu shemachnisim tekav acha kriya echaltzem acha kaddish shekodim tefillas Musaf. We take them off after the kaddish before tefillas Musaf. So that's what we're all familiar with. The Mishnah Berurah says there seems to be a bit of a pressure. Everyone should take them off quickly. Why is it that people take them off quickly before we say Musaf? So in footnote 74 he explains, on Rosh Chodesh, when you say Kaddish before Musaf, take the tefillin off after the Kaddish before Musaf, but do it quickly. Bia B'Shad Shuvas Shevet Halevi, Rav Vosner explains, there shouldn't be a big gap between the Kaddish and Musaf, or Masha Kaddish Musaf ala Ashrei, or Volat Tzion Shelefonov, even though that Kaddish is going on Ashrei and Volat Tzion, and it's not going on Musaf. However, the Mikol Mokum Utzorech HaTefillah is considered the Tzorech of the Tefillah. We should try and juxtapose the Kedusha the Musaf of the Kedusha the Sidra that we say in a Volat Tzion with Musaf. And therefore there shouldn't be a big gap. Continues the Mishnah Berurah of Eli Rabbah, Kosov the Rosh Chodesh Yachlot Zach Kedushas Volat Tzion. He says that you take them off after the Kedusha of Volat Tzion, Kodim Shem Yirotzim Ufanecha, etc. V'lo yamtin melacholtzom adach Kaddish, Kadesh lehafsik ben Kaddish and Tefillah. There shouldn't be a hefsek between the Kaddish and the Tefillah. Okay. Samach. V'hu adin b'chol hamoed. V'achronim kosvu. Given the yesh oimim shloniach klal b'chol hamoed, since there are those who are of the opinion that you should not be wearing tefillin at all on chol hamoed, because it comes in Siman Yemahar lachaltzim kodim halal. And that's what we do. We take them off after Shemona Esrei of Shachris before Halel, v'hashatz acha Halel. and the Shatz takes it off after Hallel. And I must be honest, I haven't seen that. In those shuls where they wear Tefillin on Chol HaMoed, I see that the Baal Tefillah takes them off before he does Chazor Sashatz. But the Mishnah Berurah says that the Shliach Tzibur should take them off after Hallel. V'chol HaMoed shel Sukkos, on Sukkos, sheyesh pnai bo'eshim mamtina la'esrog, because there's a bit more time, people are taking lulav esrog, etc. Av sha'ashatz yachlotz kodim Hallel, even the Shliach Tzibur takes them off before Hallel. Hanoagin lilbosh kol hayom, those people who wear Tefillin all day, yachzor v'yilbosh b'rosh chodesh achat tefillas musaf, you take them off before Musaf, and then you put them back on later. You don't make another brach when you put them back on. Because your intention when you took them off is to put them back on after Musaf. You don't wear them, you don't put them back on. For those who have the custom to wear them on Shachris, you don't put them on again, even those people who normally wear. And those people who wear Rabbeinu Tam, on Chol HaMoed they don't wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin at all. They can put them on after Musaf. Or they could take them off before Volotzion Shal Rashi, and then they put on the Rabbeinu Tam during when they say Volotzion. Kedushas Keser Pirush, but Malkum Sha'anu Omrim Nekadish for Nusach Ashkenaz. When we say Nekadish, the Musaf Omrim B'Ksas Mekomas Keser Yitnu Lecha. So why have you got to take it off before Keser? Lochein Ein Nochen Lios Oz Keser Shatfin Nolov. It's not wrong. We're giving you a crown, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's not appropriate that we also wear a crown at that time. If you by mistake, you're halfway through the Musaf Shemona Esra on Rosh Chodesh and you realize you haven't taken the tefillin off, so you don't take them off in the middle of Shemona Esra. It's only a minhag to take it off before that Shemona Esra. B'chol makom, hataz kosov the noig she'ena choles b'musaf eina lov tluna. If someone has a minhag not to take his tefillin off on Musaf, on Rosh Chodesh, don't have to complain against him, don't worry. Because we say in Nusach Ashkenaz, you don't actually say Keser. I heard about one particular Gadol Echad, he didn't take this tefillin off before Musaf. But the rest of us, we should make sure that we don't change from the minhag and we take our tefillin off. So just to summarize, on a regular day, you should only take the tefillin off after the Kaddish, after Volotzion, not before. There are those, the Arizal writes to wait till after the Kaddish Yosem, after Oleinu. The Arizal says after Al-Kein Kavecha, or certainly the Medaktikim, the Ramah says to wait until after the Kaddish Yosem, after Oleinu. And on other days, on Hallel, on Chol HaMoed, to take it off before Hallel, after Shachris of Musaf, and on Rosh Chodesh, after the Kaddish before Musaf. Say that.